Question 84. Truth and Ahimsa as pillars of the Gandhian concept of Satyagrah and the impact of Gandhian philosophy on the Indian Constitution. Introduction. The moral foundation of Gandhian political philosophy. Mahatma Gandhi's political philosophy stands apart in the history of political thought for its profound ethical and spiritual foundations. Unlike Western thinkers who emphasized power, sovereignty, or law, Gandhi grounded his political ideas in moral and human values, truth, satya, and non-violence, ahimsa. For Gandhi, politics was not a struggle for domination, but a moral pursuit for justice and self-purification. His doctrine of Satyagrah, meaning holding firmly to truth, combined both truth and ahimsa as inseparable moral principles guiding human action and resistance to injustice. These principles not only shaped India's freedom struggle but also inspired the ideals and values embedded in the Indian Constitution, particularly in its vision of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Truth and ahimsa as the pillars of Satyagrah. 1. Meaning and nature of Satyagrah. The term Satyagrah was coined by Gandhi during his struggle in South Africa, 1906. Derived from the Sanskrit words Satya, truth, and Agraha, firmness or insistence, it literally means firm adherence to truth. Satyagrah is not mere passive resistance. It is a spiritual and moral weapon, rooted in love, suffering, and self-discipline rather than hatred or coercion. It seeks to convert the wrongdoer, not to destroy him. For Gandhi, the purpose of Satyagrah was not to humiliate the opponent but to awaken his conscience through moral persuasion and self-suffering. Satyagrah is a weapon of the strong. It excludes hatred and ill will. M.K. Gandhi, its pillars, truth and ahimsa, form the ethical foundation of all Gandhian political action. 2. Truth, satya, the supreme moral principle. Meaning of truth. Truth, according to Gandhi, is the ultimate reality and the essence of God. He famously said, "God is truth," and later modified it to "truth is God." For Gandhi, truth meant not only factual accuracy but moral truth, righteousness, justice, and purity of intention. 2. Truth as the end and the means. Gandhi believed that the means and ends are inseparable. If the end is truth and justice, the means to achieve it must also be truthful. Hence, a good objective cannot be achieved by immoral or violent means. They say, means are after all means. I would say, means are everything. As the means, so the end. In political terms, this means that social or political goals, like freedom or equality, must be pursued through honest, transparent, and moral conduct, not deceit or coercion. 3. Practical application. Truth demands fearlessness, self-control, and sincerity. The Satyagrahi, seeker of truth, must be ready to suffer personally to reveal the truth to the world. By embracing suffering rather than inflicting it, the Satyagrahi demonstrates the moral superiority of truth over force. Example, Gandhi's truth-based campaigns like the Salt March, 1930, and Non-Cooperation Movement, 1920, exposed the moral illegitimacy of colonial rule through peaceful defiance. 3. Ahimsa, non-violence, the guiding method. Meaning of ahimsa. Ahimsa, for Gandhi, was not merely the absence of physical violence, it was a positive state of love, compassion, and goodwill toward all beings. It meant not to hurt in thought, word, or deed. Ahimsa arises from the recognition that all life is one, harming another is harming oneself. Thus, non-violence is both a moral law and a way of life. 2. Ahimsa as a political force. Gandhi transformed ahimsa from a moral ideal into a political technique, a weapon for the oppressed. He showed that non-violence can achieve what violence cannot. It can transform hearts, unite masses, and expose injustice without hatred. Non-violence gives moral power to the powerless, making Satyagrah a force for both resistance and reconciliation. Example: the civil disobedience movement and Quit India movement were built on non-violent protest, which shook the foundations of British imperial authority without resorting to arms. 3. Suffering as strength. For Gandhi, suffering voluntarily accepted in the cause of justice is spiritual strength, not weakness. By enduring suffering, the Satyagrahi appeals to the conscience of the oppressor. Thus, ahimsa is both the means, non-violent action, and the spirit, love and compassion of Satyagraha. Ahimsa is the highest duty, the highest virtue, the highest truth. M.K. Gandhi. 4. Relationship between truth and ahimsa. Truth and ahimsa are interdependent and inseparable. Ahimsa is the means, truth is the end. 1. Cannot exist without the other. Without ahimsa, pursuit of truth degenerates into coercion. Without truth, ahimsa becomes sentimental weakness. For Gandhi, to realize truth, one must practice ahimsa, and to practice ahimsa sincerely, one must be devoted to truth. Hence, Satyagrah is equal to truth plus ahimsa plus self-suffering. 5. Political implications of Satyagrah. 1. Moralization of politics. Gandhi rejected Machiavellian politics based on deceit or power struggle. Politics, he said, must rest on ethics and moral purity. 2. Resistance to unjust laws. Satyagrah is a method of civil disobedience, peacefully refusing to obey laws that violate moral conscience. 3. Empowerment of the weak. Non-violence enables the weak and oppressed to resist injustice with dignity and unity. 4. Universal humanism. Truth and ahimsa transcend religious and cultural boundaries, making Satyagrah a universal philosophy of human dignity and freedom. 2. Impact of Gandhian philosophy on the Indian Constitution. Gandhian ideals profoundly influenced the philosophy, objectives, and structure of the Indian Constitution. The Constitution reflects Gandhi's vision of justice, equality, non-violence, and decentralization of power. 1. Preamble. Reflection of Gandhian moral ideals. The preamble enshrines the values of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, ideals that Gandhi considered essential for a moral society. Its commitment to human dignity and peaceful coexistence mirrors Gandhian ethics of truth and ahimsa. 2. Fundamental Rights, Part 3, Protection of Human Dignity. The fundamental rights embody the Gandhian concern for individual freedom, non-discrimination, and human worth. Article 14 to 18, Equality before law and abolition of untouchability, Gandhi's lifelong struggle. Article 19, Freedom of speech, assembly, and association, instruments for peaceful Satyagrah. Article 21, Right to life and personal liberty, sanctity of human life, a direct reflection of ahimsa. Article 25, Freedom of conscience and religion, Gandhi's respect for all faiths and spiritual truth. Thus, the Constitution transforms Gandhian moral ideals into legal guarantees. 3. Directive Principles of State Policy, Part 4, Economic and Social Gandhism. Part 4 of the Constitution closely reflects Gandhi's constructive program and vision of a just and self-reliant society. Article 38 – Promotion of Social, Economic, and Political Justice. Article 39 – Prevention of Concentration of Wealth, Gandhian Ideal of Economic Equality. Article 40 – Organization of Panchayati Raj, Gandhi's dream of village self-rule, Gram Swaraj. Article 43 – Promotion of cottage industries and cooperative enterprises, echoing his belief in decentralized, rural economy. Article 47 – Duty of the state to improve health and nutrition, Gandhi's emphasis on physical and moral well-being. The directive principles thus translate Gandhian social philosophy into state policy for social transformation. 4. Fundamental Duties, Part 4a, Gandhian Moral Responsibility. Added by the 42nd Amendment, 1976, the fundamental duties reinforce Gandhi's call for responsible citizenship and moral action. Article 51a, E. Promoting harmony and renouncing practices derogatory to women. Article 51a, F. Preserving cultural heritage. Article 51a, G. Protecting the environment and extension of Ahimsa toward nature. These duties remind citizens that rights must be exercised with moral restraint and civic duty, a distinctly Gandhian idea. 5. Decentralization and village self-governance. Gandhi envisioned Gram Swaraj, self-sufficient, autonomous village republics as the foundation of democracy. This ideal is realized through the 73rd Constitutional Amendment, 1992, which institutionalized Panchayati Raj in Part 9. Gandhi believed true democracy begins at the grassroots, where people govern themselves through consensus and cooperation. 6. Social justice and abolition of untouchability. Gandhi's fight against caste discrimination and untouchability found direct constitutional expression in Article 17, Abolition of Untouchability. Article 46, Promotion of the educational and economic interests of scheduled castes and tribes. These provisions enshrine Gandhi's belief in social equality and human dignity. 7. Peace and international harmony. Gandhi's doctrine of Ahimsa and universal brotherhood influences Article 51, which directs the state to promote peaceful settlement of international disputes, respect for international law, global cooperation for justice and harmony. Thus, Gandhian pacifism becomes part of India's constitutional vision of peaceful coexistence and world friendship. 3. Summary for quick understanding. Truth, Satya, is the end and moral foundation of Satyagrah. Ahimsa, non-violence, is its means. Together, they make resistance to injustice a moral and spiritual act, not a violent rebellion. Gandhi's ideas profoundly shaped the Indian Constitution, influencing the preamble, justice, equality, fraternity, fundamental rights, freedom and dignity, directive principles, economic justice, village self-rule, fundamental duties, civic morality, Panchayati Raj and social equality. Thus, The Constitution carries the ethical imprint of Gandhi, transforming moral ideals into constitutional principles. Quick revision notes. Satyagrah is equal to truth plus ahimsa plus self-suffering. Truth is equal to moral righteousness and honesty. Ahimsa is equal to non-violence in thought, word, and deed. Preamble is equal to justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Part 3 is equal to human dignity and rights. Part 4 is equal to economic and rural self-reliance. Part 4a is equal to moral duties and harmony. Part 9 is equal to Panchayati Raj, Gram Swaraj. Article 17 is equal to abolition of untouchability. Article 51 is equal to peaceful international relations. One-line questions and answers for revision. 1. What does Satyagrah mean? Firm adherence to truth. 2. What are the two pillars of Satyagrah? Truth and Ahimsa. 3. What does Gandhi mean by truth? Moral and spiritual reality, God Himself. 4. What is Ahimsa according to Gandhi? Active love and non-injury to all beings. 5. What is the relationship between truth and Ahimsa? Ahimsa is the means, truth is the end. 6. Which part of the Constitution reflects Gandhian social ideals? Directive Principles, Part 4. 7. Which article abolishes untouchability? Article 17. 8. Which constitutional amendment established Panchayati Raj? 73rd Amendment, 1992. 9. Which article promotes international peace? Article 51. 10. What is Gandhi's concept of true democracy? Gram Swaraj, self-rule by villages. Final connection. Truth and Ahimsa, as Gandhi conceived them, are not mere moral virtues but transformative political principles. They make politics a path of moral awakening and social justice rather than coercion and domination. The Indian Constitution, in its vision of justice, equality, freedom and peace, is a living embodiment of Gandhian thought. It transforms Satyagrah's moral spirit into constitutional law, ensuring that India's democracy rests not only on power and law, but on conscience, compassion, and truth.